Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. We're gonna look at Nio. I made a video a few days ago after the earnings, and I really appreciate your comments. So thank you all of you that commented on the video and watched the video. And I think this time we're gonna look at your point of view in the comment section and see, where if we can find a common ground here. But first, let's start at the stock price. We can see that the stock is still below $5, although on the day of the earnings it actually kind of tanked quite a bit. It went down all the way down to, I think here we can see 4.4, yeah, 4.3 even sometimes. But then it kind of, late that day, it kind of rebounded a little bit. Then there was a downgrade on the 20th of November, so one day after the earnings, which I think this company here, Macquarie, sorry for the pronunciation, they kind of cut the price target from 6.6 to 4.8. But if we have a look at I don't know, let's have a look at the tip ranks and the average weighed out of the price targets. We can see that the average is still quite a bit higher up than the current stock price. So the average is right now at 6.23 with the low of 4 and the high of 8.9. Now, so if you go on let's see the mood out there in the Twitter, we can see that CryptoWitchy, again, give him a follow. I really like this guy, been following him past 6 months. Really interesting point of view there. I hope he's right, but maybe also in the long term, I'm kind of agreeing with him. But my point of view is maybe we should have a relaxed understanding or relaxed estimates for the stock price in the up and coming 2 years, because I have been in this situation for a long time now in regards to NIO. Look at this again. Follow this guy. Get this guy a follow on Twitter. But you can see that he kind of visualizes the whole idea here that every single time we've been closing on the trend here, breakout for this kind of trend, and we kind of got it, I think, in late 2023 or early 2023, where we kind of momentarily went well all the way up to, I think, 15 or 16 US dollar, maybe 14 it was. But then due to some, another capital raise, the stocks tanked, and yeah, we've had this another leg down for the past 18 months yet again. Question is, will the stock kind of go further up? Difficult to say. To be honest, this is the stock that I'm not gonna comment, up or down. It's not up to me to decide. I'm just gonna say what I think, and I don't know, like at some point we all agree that the market cap is way too low. Like, let's not forget that I'm on all of your side that the market cap for this company at the current stage and what they deliver is way too low. In fact, if you look at the deliveries, so the green you can see for last year, and then there was a nice increase for most of the months of 2024 represented in blue, right? There are a couple of months in July and August, and also January and February. But I think the first two is usually for the Chinese New Year. It's a lot, difficulty to understand what's going on there. And then July and August were the peaks of last year, whereas for this year it's just been the average over the past half a year essentially. So it's a good sign. I would also comment on next year and expectations. Now, to be honest, one thing is, what is the November and December delivery going to look like? So if we look at closely at the November deliveries and um, so what is the November and December deliveries going to look like? So we can see that for entire NIO total group, we had 4,820 deliveries last reported week, or sorry, insurance registrations. And then the week before to that, we had 3,800. I'm a bit, unsecure about, not so, sure about these numbers for Onvo, but I take what the others on Twitter also are reporting on. It could be wrong, but I don't think so. I think we are in the right ballpark based on a few comments that the CEO gave a while back in September or so. Here you can see I've written down the numbers here. So October, they were aiming for 5,000 cars. They came in at around 4,000 and a half, I think 4,300. Then they said that 2 months later in December, they were aiming at 10, in January at 16, and in March 20,000 Onvo deliveries monthly run rate, which would mean that in November we could hopefully be above 5 at least, maybe 6 or 7. So based on that, if we go now back to the weekly insurance registration, currently we are around 11 to 12,000 deliveries for entire NIO deliveries this month. And this is including a few days that are now remaining. So let's take up the calendar here quickly. So I would say we have 2 full weeks left for deliveries, essentially half a month, a little bit less than half a month. Usually, we see a much stronger deliveries by end of the month than the beginning of the month. Although the trend is not always correct, there are definitely times where this hasn't been the truth, but usually that's the case. If we assume we are around 12,000 right now, I think, maybe my goals that I had in the beginning at around 28,000, which I lowered to 26 now, I'm even, worried about 26, but it doesn't matter, if it's 23 or 26 in the long run, I'm not coming from that point of view. I'm saying just maybe 26 is a little bit too much. I don't know what you guys think, but yeah, so let's go with 23 to 26,000. So if we assume that 23 to 26,000 cars for November, maybe if we are lucky 30,000 in December, I think that one is, a little bit unrealistic. But if we even assume that, then maybe lower our expectations for January and February of 2025 due to the Chinese New Year and, the traditional beginning of the year being a little bit slow as people have already purchased their cars in Q4 of the previous year. Maybe we see some stabilization around 30,000 going all the way close to the summer. It's possible that my numbers are a little bit optimistic here because of the risk of, cannibalization. As Onvo delivery and later in the year Firefly deliveries kind of continue to ramp up, is it possible that even the 20,000 or so monthly deliveries for the traditional Neo brand is unrealistic? I don't know, to be honest. Let's wait and see. But currently, we are not seeing insane kind of surge in demand. Currently, what we are seeing is kind of Onvo replacing a little bit of the traditional Neo deliveries. As you can see on the bars on the blue ones, Onvo delivered starting in September and October. That being said, we are in the ramp up, so it could be that, it's just unrealistic to expect anything higher in the first 2 months. I don't know. Some people talk about Xpeng, that they kind of ramped up very quickly. Not all companies are equal. It's difficult to say. So now going to the comments. Obviously, China will mandate a battery inspection starting next year. Nio is obviously exempt from this because of battery swap. You can relax, hence me. Battery swap is a win. I pointed out that I agree that the swap station is a real winner here, but I don't think that the pace of increase is, realistic in my opinion. But most people don't agree with me, and that's fine. That's my own point of view. We can see that considering the number of cars that are expected to sell in the coming year, so this guy thinks that battery swap stations will come in handy, and in the long run it will pay off. And I think, I agree that in the long term it will pay off for sure. And then there's generally a lot of discussions just that, the swap stations are good. Some people raising the power grid, the grid power balancing, that's a neat kind of thing. I don't know how that's going to be done. I like this comment here that, let's see if I scroll down a little bit there we go from GIF demand. Yeah. So thank you for the comment, GIF demand. Perfectly balanced view, he said. Well, that's a nice comment to hear because most of them are not agreeing with me, but that's again fine. We can see here that the bottom line, obviously, the net loss is important, and this is something that has, at the end of this year, changed my point of view on Neo a little bit. And I'm, to be honest, disappointed. Look at this line 30 here. Come on, guys, we have to all agree that we would have wanted to see this net loss decrease. Yeah, sure, Xpeng also kind of increased a little bit of their net loss, but their rate of improvement over, if you average it out over the past 2 or 3 quarters is much more better in my opinion than Nios. Still, nothing to be scared of. I hope no one goes from this video and thinking that I'm selling my Neo stock. I'm not doing that. I'm just saying that, yeah, I would have loved to see this number improve much better. This obviously affects my expectations. In fact, if we go to this table here and we can scroll all the way to Q1 of 2025, and this obviously affected my numbers here because you can see that net loss back then I was going for in the mid 500s. Now I'm not sure if we're gonna go from the 720 or so million net loss to 543 in next quarter, especially based that the vehicle deliveries will increase by a healthy 19.6% or so. But we could see that, in the 2 quarters ago, the vehicle delivery increased by 91%, whereas the net loss decreased only by 3.5%. So yeah, I'm not, I think I definitely should revise my numbers maybe for next week to increase this number to maybe 600 or even 650, 700 million net loss. Let's wait and see. Going back to the video and the comments, you can see that one of the points of view that he also had is the current fleet size. So let's go to the swap station, the infrastructure tab here. You can see that currently the fleet size in October sits around 620,000 cars. And if I'm expecting that Nio will sell around 400,000 cars or so next year, highly possible. It's a challenge, definitely. I'm not saying it's 100% sure that Nio will sell 400 cars next year. But I think it is a challenge, but it's a doable challenge. So if we assuming they're gonna sell that many cars next year, the fleet size is essentially next year this time gonna be give or take 1 million cars. And this gentleman here also had a really nice point of view here. He's thinking that figures suggest that at any given day, 15% of the cars will battery swap, which means that that is around 150,000 cars by end of next year. And he assumed that 3,250 estimated swap stations in Q4 of next year, and that would give us 46 swaps per station per day. And I think that, the napkin math, it's kind of napkin mathing, if you could say so, because I think that's roughly where I'm sitting out next year. You could argue that it all depends on the number of, the swap stations. I went with 3,200. Now at the current pace that they are doing, maybe I should increase it to 3,400, 500. I don't know. It's difficult to say. Let's wait and see. But I think for sure that the infrastructure cost is getting reduced per number of cars sold. So that metric is definitely going in the right direction. But for me, I would have loved this to move in the right direction a little bit more clear and faster in order to, get these target prices going up a little bit and get some nice momentum in the stock price, which I think is really good for the company and, the image here of the company out there. Now, if we go to my own graphs, I think there's a lot of stuff that I kind of forget to mention the other day in the Q3 earnings. And one of them was the rate of increase of the other sales. So if we quickly look here, we can see here, this graph is showing the cost of other sales in the white, which has traditionally been higher, except for 1 or 2 quarters in 2021. But most of the time, the cost of other sales is higher than actual other sales, which is, they're making a loss currently and been doing so for quite a while. But looking at the trend again, you can see that the delta, but actually if I zoom in, I don't know how clearly you see this, but if I zoom in a little bit here around the timeline of, let's say 2024 here or thereabouts, and you can see that the level of the delta between them is increasing, and the delta is kind of shown in the green graph, in the green bar chart. And you can see that, that's going to turn positive sometime next year. And this quarter, it kind of increased around 4 or 5% faster than I expected. So essentially a 4 or 5% faster improvement in the road to profitability for the other sales. So I think definitely this is a really, really nice takeaway from the earnings, and something that I sadly missed on the Q3 earnings reaction. So that's also something good. But let's go to the other comments here. We can see that this person here, Chris, asked what if other manufacturers want to do swap on Neo stations? Usage fees could be very large. For sure, that could definitely, if that's the case. And we've seen a lot of partnership. Maybe I should do a deeper dive into the partnership and the entire battery swap infrastructure. Maybe actually I'm gonna do that in the upcoming month. But I think that's a really good point for sure. The usage fees could really make this a money printer. But till date we haven't seen any really actual realistic movement there. We don't see any other cars doing Neo battery swaps or anything close to that. But there's been a lot of talk about, late 2026, early 2027. And if that's the case, for sure, that difficult to say how much money they would make. But I would argue that even if they make 50, 50 cent or $1 per swap in China, if we have around 150,000 swaps per day in Nio alone, it could still, improve the margins quite a lot. I would think that the fee would be a little bit higher than $1 in pure profit for Nio per swap for other cars. I don't know. It's difficult to say. I have to make the calculations based on that. But maybe you guys can actually comment in the video and see what's your point of view. How much money would Nio make on one swap from, for example, if Xpeng or whatever other manufacturer makes, maybe Zeekr makes a battery swappable car that is using Nios swap station. And also one of the points, again, the traditional discussion here is always about Nios cars in terms of warranty and lifetime is going to obviously age much better than most of the other cars due to the simple fact that the cost of changing of the faulty battery is much, much, much less than every single other battery car. So I think that is something that the market still hasn't. I mean, a lot of people are aware of this, but it looks like it doesn't kind of go into the calculus of the price and the cost of these cars. Remember, I'm in kind of Sweden, and there's a little, there's essentially no new cars being sold in Sweden right now. Although in our neighbor country, Norway, they are doing great. But I think it's partly due to the high cost of the Neo cars. Maybe Onvo will improve that next year. Hopefully, we'll have Onvos on road in Europe next year. But as well, I think it's just, yeah, it's so cumbersome to understand if you lease a car, a company car, or whatever it could be, what is the benefit of the battery swap system, right? That's, if Neo marketing makes that advantage much more clear to the consumers out there. You buy this car compared to a Tesla Model 3. Sure, the Model 3 is, I don't know, 15% cheaper, but this is what it would cost you to change the battery, and you don't have the option. Whereas if you buy the Neo, you could today buy the small battery, and then 5 years in the future, hopefully there's a much better battery chemistry in there, and you can probably with a reasonable fee essentially extend your range by probably 50% or even more. So all of these advantages, I think Neo should kind of hammer home on the marketing side. So yeah, I think that's gonna probably, yeah, patience is a lot of, the same topic here for most of your guys' comment. I see you, I hear you, and I think a lot of you guys have the right to express your view. I agree with you long term. But yeah, so I'm just, as a normal investor here that kind of worried about this price action of the stock. I mean, look at it. Like, it's just, we have to agree that this is just miserable. Like, imagine all of us could have invested our monies, just pick and choose any company essentially, and would have made much better living. But again, I really love this company. I'm gonna definitely for sure follow this up. And yeah, so let's see what happens. And hopefully on Tuesday we'll have a nice delivery or insurance registration numbers. I do also think that we are now getting to a point where Neo is actually selling cars in Middle East as well. And those numbers are not, mentioned in these insurance registration numbers in China, obviously. Neither are those in Europe. So if the European sales goes up a little bit in the upcoming months, could also affect, the monthly deliveries for the total group globally. Remember, these numbers are looking at the Neo sales in China mainly. So yeah, and obviously to finish the video with, the lithium carbonate price is just a carnage. So this is good in the long term for the margin. The margin came in roughly where I kind of expected it to come in. And if we kind of look at that number here to finish the video off, we can see that the gross margin right now, I'm thinking of let's go with the Q2 of 2025, so half a year from now or so. I think the gross margin should be at around 13. Is that realistic based on the number we got in Q3? Oh, that's a difficult one. I do believe that's realistic because by the end of the day, lithium carbonate price seems to really, really being stuck at these low levels. They're gonna sell more Onvo cars with better margins, and they're gonna sell more cars, maybe 90,000 cars or so. So by by middle of next year, is it unrealistic to think that the gross margin will improve to 13%? In worst case scenario, 12.5%? I don't think so. From just below 11% right now. So yeah, I think this is gonna do it for today. It was just a follow-up and reaction to your comments, and please like and subscribe, and most importantly share your view on a lot of the questions regarding how much money can Neo make on if other companies start to utilize their swap infrastructure, which is probably one of the biggest questions that we need to, as a community, figure out. So thank you for watching. Thank you for your time, and see you in the next one.